Welcome along again to Highlanders Story, and this is episode 2. That's if it's all running numerically. So, guest number 2, I'd like to introduce himself. Could you start by introducing yourself, your name, where you're from, and your rank when you left military service?
Yeah, my name's Richie Turner. I was born in Glasgow, 1940. I joined the Army 57 and left the military service in 2005 with the rank of Lieutenant Colonel.
How long did you stay in Glasgow? What was your life like growing up?
Well, in Glasgow, during the war, of course, you had the blackouts. Left. Father was in the Army. I never saw him till I was 5-year-old. And when he came back, he was a coalman, and we lived in a single end in Calton. And then we moved to a room and kitchen, and we lived next door to the Crothers, who was a other famous family in the regiment. And I left school at 15 and went to the butcher shop to be an apprentice butcher. At that time, I was in the Army Cadet Force in Brickton. And then at 17 and a half, I decided to join the Army because my neighbour was in Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders, Eddie Crothers. And that's when I joined in 1957, November.
So you did have some military background. Were your father in during the war? What regiment was he in?
He actually joined the HLITA in Glasgow with his brother, and then he finished up in at Royal Army Service Corps. He was actually a driver during the war, and at D-Day he actually drove a duck onto the beaches.
Oh yes.
And he's finished up at Casino.
Oh, at Casino in Italy.
In Italy.
Yeah. Of course, the ASC then became the Royal Corps of Transport, and
yeah, eventually
it's split up into different things. Yeah. So the Army Cadets, did that sway you one way or another to join the Army? Was that the motive?
Well, it did. Yeah, I joined at 13, and by the time I was started work at 15 and a half, I was a sergeant major in the Royal Artillery Cadets, and that sort of put me forward. I then transferred to the Bearmore Cadets because they wore kilts and they were badged to the HLI. And whilst I was at the Bearmore Cadets, I joined the Army.
Yeah, I remember them well from my Army Cadet days in Glasgow.
Parkhead.
Yeah.
Because we actually moved to Stamford Street. We lived next door to Celtic Park.
That's right, yeah.
We lived next door to the Crothers in Banker Street, which is in the Calton. And then after I joined the Army, the family moved to Stamford Street, to Celtic Park.
So what was the recruitment process like then, when you did join?
Well, basically, you just went to the recruiting office and had a wee interview and signed a bit of paper, and you were in.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question was partly because I know when I went along, I had no particular regiment in mind. So were you swayed one way or another to join the regiment that you did?
Well, I did ask to join the Camerons because the Crothers were in it.
Yeah.
They were serving. So, and I said I lived next door to them for all my life, basically. So that swayed them.
So that no problems.
So there was no problem joining. No. They didn't try to put me into something else.
So they didn't have any personal. I mean, Seaforth or Camerons, no personal significance to yourself at all.
No, the reason I joined because Eddie Crothers was in the Camerons, and he used to come home and leave as a corporal in B Company in the Camerons.
So that's
what swayed me.
Yeah, big swaying you.
Yeah.
In your life. I understand that. What do you remember about basic training at that time? What was it like?
Arrived in Inverness in November 1957, got off at the station, asked where the barracks was, and I had to walk 1.5 miles to get to the barracks in the snow and ice with my teddy boy suit on. It didn't help. And when I got there, basically they put me in a squad of 12. We were actually all regulars because the National Service squads were sort of 100 strong at that stage of the game. So I had to wait about 5 weeks before we were strong enough to form a squad. And in that squad there was 3 pipers in that squad too.
So what did you do for the 5 weeks while you were waiting?
Well, basically just get issued uniform and sort of basic drill and fatigues. Used to do QM's cold fatigues. Got the quarters in the barracks. They're now gone, of course. You had to take the coal round to the quarters every week.
Right.
And issue the families with their coal for the fire.
I mean, just thinking back on that, I mean, change days right enough, delivering coal to the families, you know what I mean? So you had to wait the 5 weeks. So how long did the basic training last?
The basic training lasts 9 weeks. So we finished up passing out at the end of January, 58.
So that wasn't too bad.
No, it was okay.
No.
Yeah. And of course at that stage of the game, the battalion was in Aden. So my mother wrote to the CO saying I was too young. I couldn't go in it because I wasn't 18 till March 58. So basically what they did, they posted me, as I've done the driving cadre, they posted me to the TA, which is based in Cameron Barracks, 4th Camerons TA. And I spent the next 2 years as a driver in Cameron Barracks.
All right. That's, so you really got to know Inverness, as I presumably you'd never been there before.
Never been in my life before, no. But by the time my 2 years was up, yeah, because it was only three soldiers, three drivers in the place. It was no corporals, no sergeants, nothing, just 3 jobs. With all that transport, yeah.
I know, that's actually sound too bad. Is there anything significant remains in your memory for that time? Especially, I mean, I'm just thinking, yeah, boy for Glasgow, whipped up to Inverness.
Well, it was educational to say that you're riding a truck all around the Highlands. You've never been outside Glasgow in your life.
Yeah.
So you had to say quick. But of course, I had my cadet thing for map reading, so I had no problems getting around the map reading scenario. Because in those days there was no phones and no sat navs. It was you got a map and you were told to go to King Eustace. The TA companies were in Fort William, King Eustace, Nairn, and the Western Islands. So you had to go around all these places various times.
Yeah.
Because the PSIs used to crash their trucks and you had to go and replace them.
Can you remember what it was like getting #1 dressed for the first time? The kilt in particular?
Well, we never got #1 dress. We actually had kilts. We had to actually wear kilts to go during training to go down town. As soon as you arrived at the barracks, they took your civvies off you and sent them home.
Right.
So when you had to go down to town, you had to put on a #1 dress. Well, BD jacket, kilt, spats.
Of course, it was battle dress. Yeah, BD
battle dress. And so you had to report to the guard room to book out and be respected by the guard commander. And off you went downtown. Oh, they had to march the way back again.
So there's no hiding place. You had to.
No, you had to kill
kilt on. So
exactly, yeah, exactly.
So where was your first posting after that?
Well, what happened? The battalion came back from Aden and went to Dover for 2 years. And by the time I caught up with them, they were back to Redford Barracks in 1960. So I joined A Company in Redford Barracks, 1960. And they were doing public duties and tattoo and all that stuff.
Yeah, I remember that well. So how about some of the more memorable postings in your time? I was thinking more Brunei, Northern Ireland.
We were 3 years in Singapore, from 61 to 64. And of course, a lot of time was spent in doing jungle patrols. The first 6 weeks, patrol was in Malaya. We called it communist terrorists run about then. So the companies would go up to the jungle for 6 weeks at a time in Malaya. I said before the Brunei thing kicked off. And then, and then back to Singapore doing duties, etc. And then we went to North Borneo to do anti-pirate patrols. This is just prior to the Brunei Rebellion. In fact, our company, we came back on a Friday night from North Borneo after 6 weeks. I went back on a Sunday to Brunei after 2 days, because we were the only people that was available. Because Delta Company had actually took over from us, so they were in North Borneo doing their job. And so I just left A and B Company in the barracks. So the Brunei kicked off, then A Company flew out.
Yep.
It was B Company the next day, got themselves together and came over by boat. And but of course, by the time all that, time B Company, the whole thing only lasted about 2 days, basically. The actual fighting and releasing of hostages was all done within 2 days. And of course, we were there till February.
Yeah, of course, B Company then missed it.
B Company, well, they got there.
They got there,
eventually.
Eventually, yeah. So what was the sort of main challenges that you faced in leadership? as you rush through the ranks?
Well, basically, when I got to Singapore, just to be private at that stage, because I'd just been a driver, and I was there about a year. They put me on the NCO cadre, so that would be 62. And I passed. They made me a lance corporal, I think about May time. So I went to Brunei in December. So I'd been lance corporal for 5 months. And then after the Brunei rebellion, in Hogmanay, 62, they made me a corporal. So I was a private acting corporal. And of course, we joined the Recce Platoon. The Recce Platoon was formed then because we knew we were going to Germany. So they formed the Recce Platoon in Singapore, which we did a lot of training, getting fit, etc., sort of doing exercises. And then from there, we went to Osnabrück.
So when would that would have been?
That would be 64.
64.
We actually came back to Singapore and went to Milton Bridge. That's at Glencorse.
Yeah.
We got colours presented there. We were only there about 2 or 3 months, and then we went to Osnabrück. And by that time, I was still in the Recce Platoon. And I got married at that stage of the game in 1964.
All right.
In June. And of course, there were no quarters for brand new married guys. So the wife came over about 2 months later. I got married on the Tuesday and was in Germany on Wednesday.
Not much of a honeymoon.
No, but I was only there. The wife just got there, and a week later I was posted to Aberdeen as a training corporal.
Yeah, that's just how things go, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
so that was late 64. And so I was there for 2 years to 66. And that's where Dominic was born. He was born in 65. So 2 years training corporal at Aberdeen. It was Highland Brigade depot then. So it was only the Highland Brigade that was there. Yeah. The Lone Brigade depot was at Glencorse. So it was only the pardon me, the Highlanders. And 2 years, I did about 3 squads with different sergeants. The first sergeant did was Stuart Anderson, Captain Anderson.
Oh, Captain, yeah.
He was a sergeant
Families
then.
officer, was he?
He finished the families officer, yeah. And then I had a Black Watch sergeant, and then I had Sergeant Danny Campbell, who eventually, he got to W01, and I think he passed away somewhere.
Right.
In Dundee. So then it was back to the battalion in Berlin, 66, and straight to Delta Company, 15 Platoon Delta Company. And whilst there, they sent me to Brecon in course number 1, the Platoon Sergeant's course in Wales. And I got there as a corporal, and of course the guy said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm on the Sergeant's course." It's only for sergeants. I went, "Oops." So they made me a local sergeant. Otherwise, I couldn't get nothing to eat in the mess.
Yeah, of course.
So, so the course lasted about 6 weeks, and halfway through it, they promoted me to acting sergeant from the regiment. Captain Sutherland, Neil Sutherland was the adjutant, sent me a wee letter. Of course, by that time, up the Brecon beacons and really fed up with the weather, etc. All the paratroopers. And anyway, no, it was good. And my claim to fame is that I'm the only guy ever, even now, to do the escape and evasion and escape.
Right.
I got through the course and didn't get caught. So I finished up back in the mess having my breakfast with the staff. And of course, when I got back to the regiment and got my course report from the CEO, he went, "You've missed out the interrogation part." I said, "I didn't get caught." He said, "You should have." So, thank you. So then I took over 15 Platoon from Sergeant Willie Rogers.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the course, I mean, it's designed to get you caught.
It's designed, everybody gets caught and everybody gets interrogated. Exactly.
So you bypassed that. I mean, that's,
No, I escaped. It took me 2
no,
days.
that's what I mean when sorry, Richard.
Yeah.
When I say bypassed, I didn't mean some jiggery pokey.
No,
that might be just.
So basically, you're in the back of a truck and you got ambushed.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to all get caught. But I did a sneaky beak and disappeared into the hills. And of course, I had a rifle, so which I took apart and put up the sleeves with my poncho and walked through the towns and eventually got through.
Right. Do you think the Scottish traditions and heritage that make up our regiment, do you think that makes us unique in any way in the British Army? And do you believe that uniqueness is being lost due to the changes in military structures at the minute?
I think it's okay now. Pardon me, it's hindsight. But in these days, you didn't have all the technology you got nowadays.
Nope.
So the soldiers were closer together, and you didn't have a lot of individuals that are doing. Everybody did things together, and that esprit de corps then cemented the regiment. I mean, the regiment was only 33 years old, and they finished up the top regiment of the British Army. They won all the competitions, won all the Bisleys, won all the football, won all the boxing. You can't do that in 33 years, but the Queen's Own Highlanders did that in 33 years. And of course, then you get all the amalgamations and all the various things that's happening nowadays, and I'm afraid we've lost it. We've lost the esprit de corps of a family regiment.
Yeah, I've got a tendency to agree with you. That's why I'm partly doing this. Is there anything in particular drove you to seek promotion, to work through the ranks? Or, I mean, these things don't just happen.
Well, it was all part of the system, basically. Pardon me. So when I got sergeant, I was already a sergeant in the Delta Company for 65, 67, but 2 years, and then they posted me to Sandhurst, 69. Came back to Belfast, for Berlin, went to Redford Barracks, and pardon me. So we came back to Berlin, 68, so in the beginning of 69, I was posted to Sandhurst for 2 years as a sergeant. Did that. I came back to the battalion as still a sergeant, and they put me in charge, took over as Sergeant Major Pender in the Salt Pioneer Platoon. And the CEO told me I took over as Sergeant Major, so just stay there, you'll get your Sergeant Major. So fair enough. 3 years later, 3 tours of Highland later, still a sergeant and still a platoon commander.
Talking about going through the ranks and leadership and that, was there any particular time when you felt your leadership was truly tested?
I think in the tours of Ireland, mostly because basically I'm working on my own. Well, not my own. I had my platoon with me, and we were divided into 4 search teams. And basically, we were a unit. Every time we went out, at least 2 search teams went each time, and the other 2, if we weren't doing nothing, assisted the BCE patrols, whatever company we were stationed with. I mean, the first 2 we were at Sydenham, in the airport, and of course the headquarters was down the town. And the second 2 were in Dungannon, which is at the countryside, which were attached to A Company then. And again, it was searching rural areas, i.e. farms and things, totally different from searching houses in Belfast. And the third 2 were in the Falls Road, which is right at the sharp end. And as I say, and halfway through the third tour, I got promoted to colour sergeant. I still stayed in the job. So that was me. So I did the 3 tours. So in 74, back to Osnabrück. And the CEO said, right, I need a rest. So they made me the colour sergeant support company for a wee while. And and after that, I'm support company colour sergeant. And then a post came up. It was a Delta Company. One of my friends, probably know him, John Irwin, the ex-Cameronian. He went to Delta Company, but that wasn't for him. He was a quartermaster type guy, so he lasted 3 weeks, and then sort of sent for me to take over Delta Company, which to me, I said, no problem. I mean, I'd been fully trained. I'd been to Sandhurst, I'd done all the jobs. So off I went to Delta Company, and for me, 75 to 77. And I took them to Denmark, I took them to Belize, and I took them back to UK. So excellent 2 years with Delta Company. Back to Kirk Newton. I was only there about 9 months, I think, and they posted me to the Glencore's depot. And that stage of the game, my time was up. So I'd just waiting for the mob. And I got a phone call from RSM Duffus. She said, would you like to go to Hong Kong? And I went, well, hold on, I'm on time. I'm just, that's time to get my 22 years in. He said, never mind that, do you want to go? I said, well, hold on, I'll go and speak to the wife. So I spoke to the wife and the family. I had 4 kids by that time. And I said, do you want to go to Hong Kong for 2 years? And they all went, yep, hands up, let's go. So they sent me on the pre-advance party as acting RSM, and took over for the the Scots Guards and tidied the place up. And awaited the arrival of the regiment. And when they arrived, I said, right, what is there you now? So RSM said, well, you could be the drill sergeant major. Aye, okay. And I said, what does that mean? That means I'm doing your job. He went, yeah. I said, okay. And then, of course, I was sent for by the QM, who then said, you'll be the TQMS, to the quartermaster's department. And he said, you're going back to UK to do the course. So I just refused. I said, hey, I've just brought my family here. My last 2 years of service, I'm not going back to UK to do a course which I can't fulfil.
Yeah.
I said, I'll be demobbed. I said, send somebody else. I said, send Bobby Towns or something like that. And so he said, well, you can't stay here. I went, okay, fine. So they sent me home 6 months early. So I sat about 6 months gardening leave. I came back in October 61 and actually got demobbed in March 62. Sorry, 82, beg your pardon. But whilst that was going on, what I did, I'd been flown home for an interview for the Edinburgh Academy Combined Cadet Force as a school staff instructor, i.e. the sergeant major type. And so when I came home, I said to the SEALs, I said, what do I do for 6 months? He says, go to the Edinburgh Academy. Oh, okay. So I went to the Edinburgh Academy and I just fitted in for 6 months. Then when I got demobbed, just stayed there. And I was there for 24 years. And I got commissioned in 93 to captain. I got major in 94 and got lieutenant colonel in 2003.
It's amazing how these things turn. Isn't it just
The
a
whole
simple
turn,
decision?
all turned, yeah, two careers totally different.
Yeah.
And got there in the end. Leave the Velcro.
We'll cut that. So what would you say was your proudest moment serving with the regiment?
Serving with the regiment, I would say that the forming of the recce platoon in Singapore, it's made it, it's never been done before in regiment. That was the first recce platoon formed, and it was totally different from your normal duty company job or a signaler's job. It was totally unique. We had to learn Morse code to start with. Do individual skills, escape and evasion, all that stuff. And the section was only 3 people. It was a corporal, a driver, and a radio operator. So you're basically on your own, doing your own little thing. So I thought that was a good effort. That.
And there's a wee bit of hesitation there when you said that. So can I expand that to to your whole military service? Was there something else?
No, really. I mean, I never done the same job twice. Everything was a challenge, rather. So that was 1 minute you're a training corporal, then your next minute you're back in duty company. Yeah. Then next minute you're off to Sandhurst to teach officers. And then you come back and you've got to go and do an assault pioneer course about blowing things up and etc. And then you finish that, and then you've got to become a quartermaster. And then after that you become a sergeant major with 125 guys to look after. So everything was a challenge all the way through. Yeah. And I enjoyed the whole. My 2 years as delegate sergeant major was excellent. Yeah. I took them to 4 countries.
Is there any one particular memory that you look back on and puts a smile on your face?
Yes, we're in Belfast in the Hastings Street police station, and and the whole thing was done up with G10 cable and loudspeakers everywhere, and it was my birthday, and of course the RSM Charlie Muller said, right, have a wee birthday party, and I had 3 sergeants and my platoon at that time. So it was myself, Johnny Bates and Jokey Duffus and Spud Thompson. So we're down in the kitchen with a couple of bottles of beer and waffling away, and the bleeper went, and I went shh, and it was Major Nason. In fact, it was him. He was a 2IC. Colour Sergeant, 2 search teams, midnight. Yes, sir, no problem. And I went, switched it off. And of course, they're all moaning like hell. And I went, it's no me, it's that B, string bass up the stairs. And beep, beep again. This is that B, string bass, 4 search teams at midnight. Oh, thank you, sir. Yeah. So that was my laugh.
So looking back on it, the experiences, obviously, as Queensland, as a Highlander, how does that shape you as a person, really?
Well, I think I think it really sorted me out. You're talking a wee guy from Glasgow, from the slums basically, with no future, and all of a sudden you're finished at after 24 years. You're 42 years old, and you're a sergeant major in the army. You've got 100 guys, and you never done that if you'd stayed in the butcher shop. Yeah. So it's really put me forward. And then my next job is the Edinburgh Academy, teaching kids to totally all sort of potential officers. Because that's where they went. Cause the Combined Cadet Force before that was called the Officer Training Corps. So you're talking, and then that's another challenge because for the Edinburgh Academy scenario, it was compulsory for them to join the cadets, and it was Army, Navy, and Air Force cadets. So the whole thing was sort of compulsory for them. So you had a challenge every year because you get different guys every year.
Yeah.
So that was another big challenge, and I was ready. For that, I thought I was fully qualified, and obviously was because I'd been with the boss.
Yeah. What do you think, were you dealing with the younger generation at that time? What do you think they didn't fully understand about your life as a soldier when you did it?
Well, that's a difficult one because I fitted in with the youngins. I mean, I still think I'm young. I'm 85. I still think I'm about 25. So, I mean, I go out and meet with my committee, etc. I'm always last to leave the bar. And even my kids tell me, take it easy. But no, working with young people keeps you young. Because you've got to go down to their level. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they won't understand what you're talking about. And to me, that's a work. I mean, I've still got guys from the Edinburgh Academy who are now in their 40s and 50s, who are now lieutenant colonels, and they still meet up with me, have a pint. So to me, I've done a good job.
So I know you still stay in touch with former members of the regiments through the association. How important is that for you today?
It's totally important because I'm one of the founder members of the association. It all kicked off when I was at Glencorse in '79, when Brigadier McLennan, Donald McLennan was at the castle, and my phone went and he went, Brigadier, oh dear, Brigadiers don't send for you. Oh dear, what have I done? He says, come to the castle tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Yes, sir. He says, and bring Mr. Boswell with you. I went, good, I'm off the hook. I've got to take Davy Boswell. Davy is then demobbed. So we're up to the castle, me and Davy, and then that's when they decided to form the Edinburgh branch of the association, which was the first branch to be formed. And about 6 months later, we had a meeting in the Royal Scot Club at Edinburgh, and there was about 300 guys there. So that's when the association kicked off. So obviously, I went off to Hong Kong. George McAllister was the secretary, Sergeant Major, and he formed a committee, about 9 guys on that committee. So when I came back to get demobbed from, pardon me, to Hong Kong, I took over. He was the secretary and treasurer, so he made me the treasurer initially, and then I became secretary and treasurer. Then I became chairman. So, and I'm still part of that committee. So I'm 40 years down the line on the Edinburgh branch committee.
Still there.
I'm still there, and I'm still do it till I kick the bucket.
Recently completed a battlefield tour in France. Would you like to tell me a wee bit more about that?
Yeah, it was slightly different, but it wasn't what I was expecting. We got on a coach which came down from Inverness, and 6 of us from the Edinburgh branch went on it. And it had been done before by Bobby Towns from the Highland branch, but I didn't know what to expect. So we eventually got to Dieppe, and then they decided that we're going to visit the various cemeteries from World War II. It was all about the raid on St Valery and the capture of the 51st Highland Division, whilst all the guys were getting taken off the beach at Dunkirk in 1940. So it was all about Seaforth and Camerons from the Highland Division's graves we went to visit, various things. But it was also the 85th anniversary of the St Valery raid. So the whole thing was then handed over to the French. So everywhere we went, there was a big parades and speeches. And so instead of going up to lay a wreath in one of the graves, it took 3 hours for the French to give out their speeches and big parades. And so we're talking 8-hour day just to lay a wreath. So that, but don't get me wrong, it was for the right reasons. You know, because we had to get dressed up and kill. and the medals and all this stuff
Yeah.
every day. But again, at the end of the day, it was worth it.
What would you say to any young Scot thinking about joining the army?
Well, I wouldn't know what to tell them nowadays because my experiences is not compatible with the army nowadays. Although, don't get me wrong, when you join, you've still got to do your duties, you've got to do guards, you've still got to do drill, etc. But the actual formations you work in and what you do is totally different from what I did. So I couldn't give anybody advice.
Is there one particular memory or story that you would say defines your experience as a Highlander?
I would say the comradeship of the whole thing. I mean, I've still got friends, Wick, Elgin, Aberdeen, as if it was yesterday. I mean, I was 60 odd years down the line. So, okay, we're now all in our 80s, but still meet up, we still have a pint and talk about things that happened 60 years ago as if it happened yesterday. And all the memories are there. And you couldn't buy that. And you couldn't do that in Civvy Street. It wouldn't work. I say I'm going back up to Inverness in September for the meeting, for the gathering. And again, we'll meet up with people there and it'll all be done. And then the gatherings next year, we'll meet up with all the old guys at my age. And again, crack the crack about Singapore and Berlin and all these things. So you couldn't get that in Civvy Street. Being a jock and being a Highlander is all part of comradeship and friendship, and it's still there as a family as well.
Yeah, it's a bond that's never going to be broken, is it?
No, exactly. As I say, my kids know all the kids. My kids are now in their 50s, and they still talk to Larry Young's kids who's in their 50s, etc. And they call themselves brats, but they're all still pally, although they've never seen them for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
So the system goes on and it's good.
I think that kind of winds up one little discussion. I hope you enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah, it was fine, George. Yeah. It's fine reminiscence. I know what I'm doing, but it's still up in the heat.
That's the great thing. I mean, as I said before, in the first one, Doogie, his memory for dates, times and places, it's far greater than mine probably will ever be. I would need a bit of paper to put it all down.
Yeah,
I mean,
I wrote it down basically just to remind myself, but it's still there to write it down.
Yeah, that's it. It has to be there. I mean,
Exactly.
So, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Turner, MBE, thank you.
Right, George, thank you for coming along.
Cheers, mate.